Number 9. Stephanie Simpson. Known to house one of New Zealand's highest peaks, Mount Aspiring National Park sports beautiful mountainous landscapes, embedded with rugged terrain and challenging, often rapidly changing weather conditions. British hiker Stephanie Simpson disappeared in the park in February of 2020. The 32-year-old tourist was on a working holiday when she decided to go on a solo hike in the park over the weekend. She was never seen alive again, and her body was found washed up in a canyon a week later. Due to the massive land area, even thermal drones, dog teams and specialized search teams failed to find her at first. Eventually, after considerable effort, her boots and pack were discovered through aerial imaging. Although no one will ever know exactly what transpired, investigators believe Simpson left the hiking trail to check out a waterfall before being swept away. The clue to that was the fact that her boots were found over 2,950 feet upstream from her body, after she'd likely taken them off to go into the water. Number 8. Stephen Grunwald. It is believed that 24-year-old Stephen Grunwald was attempting to hike the Glacier Gorge Traverse on August the 29th of 2020 when he was last seen alive. Situated in the Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, the route, which is considered difficult, includes 11 peaks over 19 miles. Grunwald was reported missing by a friend on September the 10th, and his car was found at the route's trailhead, but recovery operations were continuously impeded by snow and heavy winds. 4 days after the search had begun, the rescue mission, which included a helicopter and a team of dogs, located his body between two peaks in an area called McHenry's Notch. A post-mortem examination revealed he died of multiple blunt force traumas. Number 7. Victoria McCloy and Jeffrey Bigmore. In November of 2019, high school sweethearts Victoria McCloy and Jeffrey Bigmore set out for a rock fishing trip on the Bald Head Peninsula in Torndirrup National Park, Australia, when they went missing. A newer hobby for Bigmore, he was enthusiastic about the rock fishing experience, and he planned to go after a grouper that had eluded capture and broken his line during past visits to the area. After traveling from where they lived in Northam, on the morning of Friday, November the 22nd, McCloy contacted family later that evening to say they had safely arrived. But 3 days later, when they had still failed to return, a concerned family member traveled all the way to the park to find their abandoned car. Police suspected they had been swept off the south side of the rocks during a 13-foot swell over the weekend. They covered land and sea for the next 5 days, hoping to find them alive. Bigmore's body was recovered on day 3, but rescue efforts were dropped without finding McCloy. Her family set up a GoFundMe page to conduct their own private search, but the body of the 22-year-old was never found. Number 6. Grand Canyon National Park, USA. Caitlin Ann Kenney, a student and resident of Colorado, vanished in January of 2012 while on a private rafting trip with friends through the Grand Canyon National Park. On the night of her disappearance, members of the group noticed she was acting out of character, but when they all retired to their tents, no one noticed that she hadn't. Upon waking up from a night of drinking, they realized she was gone. With temperatures reaching below zero throughout the night, the fear was she'd fallen into the water, and authorities were notified immediately. It was the beginning of a drawn-out search that offered few clues except for one set of footprints heading downstream that stopped a half-mile from the camp. 2 months later, a group of rafters spotted her body floating in the river, 30 miles from where the group had set up camp and where she was last seen. Her body was recovered and her identity confirmed. A coroner identified the cause of death to have been drowning and classified it as accidental. Number 5. Alexander Lofgren and Emily Henkel. It was 2 days after their expected return home from a backcountry camping trip in Death Valley National Park when the search for Tucson couple Alexander Lofgren and Emily Henkel began. Both experienced campers. They had set off into the park with jugs of water and at least 1 day's worth of food, which was more than enough for their expected short trip. But 4 days would pass until they were found and 5 until they could be rescued. The search had begun by checking all hotels in the area and issuing an alert for their car. Their cell phones were contacted and a backcountry log filled out by Lofgren was scoured, but neither avenue furthered their search. It was an aerial search over areas outside of Lofgren's listed destinations that finally provided a breakthrough for authorities. The car was found abandoned with 2 flat tires and a note inside detailing the direction they went. Instead of retracing the 22 miles they had just traveled, They had decided to trek toward Mormon Point, near another paved road. They'd made it within 2 miles of their destination when they were spotted on a steep ledge in a remote area of the park. Even though they'd been found an hour after their car was spotted, due to the difficult terrain and the angle of the ledge, all rescue attempts failed. It wasn't until the following afternoon that rescue teams were able to reach them and assess their situation. Henkel had sustained a severe injury to her foot and was flown directly to a hospital for surgery. Unfortunately, Lofgren had already passed away by the time the couple was found. Number 4. Austin Pfeiffer. A hunter became the hunted in September of 2020 when a man from Ohio was attacked and killed by a grizzly bear. Trekking into a remote part of Wrangell St. Elias National Park, 22-year-old Austin Pfeiffer and his hunting partner had planned for a 10-day trip. On the evening of the 19th, the pair found success and took down a large moose. They were half a mile from camp, and it was getting late. Thus, the duo opted to leave the carcass for salvaging the following day. Hoping to make an efficient job of it, the next morning they decided to split the work, with Pfeiffer staying behind to prepare each load while his partner hauled them back to camp. It seemed to be an efficient plan, but it was also one that left both parties alone and vulnerable. While making his way back after only the first load, Pfeiffer's partner was attacked by a bear. He fortunately was able to reach for his gun and scare it off, but upon reaching the carcass, he discovered Pfeiffer's lifeless body. Pfeiffer's partner was safely evacuated, while his body was retrieved the following day. In such a remote location, rangers were never able to track down the bear, but no other visitors were known to be in the area. Number 3. Incident at Denali National Park and Preserve. Boasting the highest peak in North America, Denali National Park is a haven for lovers of extreme outdoor activities. Amongst them was a climbing duo who'd hoped to ascend Reality Ridge in May of 2020. Using its western face, the pair, identified only as a 32-year-old from Ohio and a 31-year-old from Utah, had set out at 5 a.m. but was soon caught in an icefall. Set just above them, a peak off the Ruth Glacier had become dislodged, and they were right in the way. Miraculously, the man from Utah was only knocked unconscious by the ice, but he awoke to find his partner hadn't been so lucky. By 6 a.m., the surviving man was able to contact park officials and somehow move away from the unstable debris. Another hour later, he was saved by a helicopter unit and mountaineering rangers who gave him medical attention and airlifted him to a hospital. The body of the deceased was eventually recovered a day later because cloudy weather conditions had made it impossible to return to the site in the immediate aftermath. Today's topic was requested by Chrissy Brewer and JJ Villanueva. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Esther Nakajigo. In June of 2020, a young newlywed couple was at the wrong place at the wrong time as they drove through the exit of Arches National Park. Just as they approached, a gust of wind stirred up and sent the arm of a metal gate swinging straight into the road. Forcefully pushed out, the metal arm impaled their car, decapitating one of them. The victim was Esther Nakajigo, a human rights activist from Uganda, who had moved to Colorado for a leadership program. Recognized by the United Nations for her work with women and awarded a full scholarship from the King of Buganda, she was only 25 at the time of her death. In response to her death, Nakajigo's family filed a $270 million wrongful death lawsuit against the national park. The suit claimed that park services had known for decades the dangers the gate posed and that a simple padlock could have saved their loved one's life. The couple had been married for only 3 months. It was Nakajigo's first time at the park, which her husband had described as his favorite place in the US before the incident. Number 1. Joseph Obeso and Rachel Nguyen. In July of 2017, a Californian couple, Joseph Obeso and Rachel Nguyen, traveled to Joshua Tree National Park to celebrate Nguyen's birthday. The next time they were seen wasn't until 3 months later, when they were found locked in an embrace, both dead from gunshot wounds. Huddled under a tree they found for shade, with clothes draped across their legs, the couple appeared to have run out of water and had been rationing food. Investigators realized the implications. After likely getting lost in the park's 800,000 acres and battling 100-degree heat, Obeso and Nguyen must have been pushed to desperation. Their wounds were determined to have been caused by the couple themselves. It's believed they saw it as the least painful way out of their plight. In the days following their disappearance, more than 250 searches were conducted, which included dog teams and helicopters. Temperatures rose so high at the time that 10 people were injured from extreme dehydration, and the search had to be scaled back. In the end, a trail of discarded water bottles and food wrappers led a group to their location. Thanks for watching. Would you rather spend a week lost in the wilderness or go a week without sleeping? Let us know in the comments section below.